Well, hi, everybody. Jeff Slakey here at the Alderbrook Resort for the Affordable Workforce Housing Summit put on by Peninsula Credit Union and other great organizations around the area. Thursday, January 3rd, sitting now with the president of Prime Locations, Zach Kustoros. Hi, Zach. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being a part of the summit today. Tell me first a little bit about Prime Locations.
Sure. Yeah, so Prime Locations is a full-service commercial real estate company. We manage commercial property. We manage apartments, hence why I'm here really on the apartment side. We manage about 1,500 apartment units in about a 5-county region here in the South Sound. We also sell, lease, and develop commercial and apartment property.
So let's talk a little bit about the differences between Thurston and Mason County. Like you said, I know a couple counties that you have work within, but what are some of the differences between Thurston County and Mason County when it comes to apartment and apartment rentals and availability and affordability for folks?
Well, I think the main difference is just that Thurston County has grown a lot faster over the last decade than Mason County has. I think we're starting to see Mason County's growth pick up a little because of the fact that Thurston County and other surrounding larger counties are getting more expensive. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is just the jobs. There's not the same level of job drivers in Mason County currently as there is in Thurston County. And so we've seen less housing development in Mason County than in Thurston County. I can't actually remember the last reasonably large-scale apartment complex that was developed in Mason County. And as apartment developers, we're looking at supply and demand metrics.
Yeah.
How fast is the population growing? What's the current inventory like? Now, I will say that Mason County is experiencing the same thing that all the other counties in the state, really, and almost anywhere in the country, for that matter, are today, which is population is growing faster than our supply is able to handle. And so we're finding ourselves in a housing shortage, right? So vacancy rates are low. When vacancy rates are too low, then rents go up faster than really you'd like them to in a perfect world. And so you see the rental inflation and even the home purchase price inflation outpacing people's wage increases. And so the purchasing power just isn't there for that to be sustainable long term.
Talk to me about the types of apartments that you work on, that you build for folks. Are they considered in the affordable workforce housing metric that we've been talking about throughout the day today, or is it a wide spectrum of types?
Yeah, one of the probably unique things about us is we manage property from the most affordable. One of our clients is the Thurston County Housing Authority. Mm-hmm. So we manage a lot of housing authority property all the way up to mid-rise apartments in downtown Olympia and now going to be in downtown Tacoma. Mm-hmm. So, from the highest end that you can get, at least down here, to the, in terms of rental amount, to the lowest rental amount end that you can have. And so we get to see kind of the whole spectrum of what affordable housing and workforce housing looks like. And I think that, unfortunately, right now, a lot of the focus is all being driven towards the very bottom end of the rental spectrum in terms of the cost. Mm-hmm. And we're forgetting that in reality, the vast majority of the people that are renting are not at the bottom. They're in the middle somewhere. And so if we can help those people live in affordable, in terms of what they're making, affordable housing units, we'll have less people matriculating into the bottom end of that financial spectrum.
You mentioned that it's been a long time since you can remember an affordable apartment housing complex come up in Mason County. Is that from any specific county regulations or that you have come across, or even City of Shelton regulations as being the only incorporated city in the county, versus when you're looking for locations in Thurston or Pierce?
I would say in Mason County, I don't think it's a big regulatory burden. In Thurston County, it is. Oh. I mean, in Thurston County, and not that it's horrible or the end of the world. I mean, there are certainly more difficult places to develop things. But, the regulatory environment that we're seeing as cities get larger and counties get larger is certainly a hindrance. In Mason County, the largest hindrance is really just the lack of jobs and the lack of population growth. Mm-hmm. And so I think that for Mason County, that's one of the main and I've always said housing's a two-sided coin. See, on one side, you have the cost of developing the housing and then the cost to rent the housing or buy the housing. But on the other side, you have economic development, right? Housing is is something that requires economic development. If we don't have jobs, if we don't have people living in a place, coming to a place, growing the population in an area, doesn't matter what kind of regulatory environment you have, it's going to be really hard to attract new development.
Mm-hmm. Are there some other incentives that you know of or have heard that could bring more affordable housing, affordable workforce housing, apartments like this, such that you bring, incentives that you've seen elsewhere, either in the state or just through conversations across the country, that could be a big benefit if they were to get worked through?
Yeah, I think one that we have in the state of Washington, and certain areas in the state, certain jurisdictions adopt the legislation, if you will, is the multifamily property tax exemption. So right now, in Thurston County, for instance, we have an 8-year, and this is statewide as well, an 8-year property tax exemption or abatement, if you will, on any market rate apartment housing if it's in certain districts.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go in Thurston County, if it's 51% affordable in certain areas, you can get up to 12 years. You go over to Bremerton, and Bremerton has had specific projects where they'll permit a 12-year property tax exemption for 15% affordability, because that property was really geared more towards workforce housing than affordable housing. So I think, and I think the state legislature is looking this upcoming session, from what I'm told, at potentially extending that exemption or expanding that exemption. The city of Olympia is going through a process right now in Thurston County to do the same thing. I think that's a big one, because as it costs more to build these properties, I'm seeing more and more that the thing that's pushing them over the edge to where they're actually developed is not having to pay property taxes for a while.
Okay.
I think the other thing is always, permits, permit fees, impact fees, and then just the timeline. I mean, it just shouldn't take 16 months to get a permit. And I don't think that's necessarily happening in Mason County, but it is happening in Thurston County. And so I think when it takes that long, we have an apartment project we're working on right now. And from the time we put the property under contract until we got a permit was about 16 months. And in that time period, hard construction costs went up over 20%.
Wow.
So when you think about as a developer, as an investor, how do you price that into your model?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are the kinds of things that are deterring or making it harder and more risky for developers to actually bring product. And the thing that I always say is we have to stop thinking about housing like a money maker or an investment. It is those things, but it's also a product. It is a really important one,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like the most important product that a community has. And so I think we just have to start thinking about developers more as product providers or even service providers, if you will, but it's really a product. Like a product on a shelf at the shelf at the grocery store, than these guys just out there trying to get rich.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. People drive around and look at houses just as if they're going up and down the aisles.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
And they have to have it.
Yeah.
It's the one thing shelter is one thing that you really do need.
Very interesting. Zach Kustoros, the president of Prime Locations, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.